Richard Sterban joining me with the Oak Ridge Boys here today on 101.5 Hank FM. And you guys have a show coming up at the Victoria Theater Saturday, May 18th at 7:30 p.m. We've got lots of Oak Ridge Boys fans here in Dayton and all over Ohio. You've got quite a few Ohio shows coming up, don't you?
Well, we've already played several times in Ohio, and we have several more days coming up the rest of this year. You're right. Ohio is one of our favorite places. We have a lot of friends. We have a lot of fans, and we've been to Dayton many times. So we are looking forward to coming back. I can speak for all of the Oak Ridge Boys, and I can tell you we're excited about coming back to Dayton. We plan to have a great time. We're going to do our best to make it a great night. So we want to encourage people to come on out, spend some time with the Oak Ridge Boys. When we come to Dayton, we're going to do the songs that you expect to hear. You can count on the fact that you're going to hear Elvira. You're going to hear me.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to hear me do Giddy Up, oh, Papa, Mau, Mau. Yes. We are going to hear Thank God for Kids, probably our most requested song. All of our hits, and we have a new project out, produced by Dave Cobb called 17th Avenue Revival. We will do some of that new music. It's very meaningful music, it's touching a lot of people. So we'll include some of that on the show. Just a great night of good country music, good family entertainment. That's really what the Oak Ridge Boys are all about.
Yeah, the song "Brand New Star." That's quite an emotional song off the new album.
Well, it really is. It was written by two young guys, and I remember the day we were recording the song. We were in the studio, and the two songwriters, I'm sorry I cannot think of their names, but they're young fellows in their 20s. And I remember we had a little break in the recording session. And I think Joe Bonzar, our tenor singer, he went out to one of them and said, this may be the happiest song I think I've ever heard about someone dying. And one of the writers, he was very serious. He said, well, that is the point, and it is a very special song. It's a different way of looking at someone dying, and in a lot of ways, it gives comfort to a lot of people who have lost loved ones, or family members, or relatives, or even good friends, and in fact, that song kind of hit home to the Oak Ridge Boys here just within the last couple of months. As you probably know, we sang at the funeral of President Bush, back in December.
How did that come about?
Well, we established a friendship with President Bush many years ago when he was still the vice president under President Ronald Reagan. President Reagan invited the Oak Ridge Boys to sing at the Congressional Barbecue on the lawn of the White House many years ago, 1983, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And we were there that day in the afternoon doing a sound check on the stage there that they had set up on the lawn of the White House. This tall, lanky gentleman with a couple other gentlemen came walking across the lawn up to the stage, came up on the stage. Then Vice President Bush introduced himself as Vice President George Bush, which he did not have to do. Of course, we recognized him immediately.
Oh, yeah.
But he did tell us that, he was a big fan. He loved country music. He's a big fan of the Oak Ridge Boys. He said he could not be at the show that night. He said, but would you guys be willing to do a couple songs for me right now? He said, I have to fly to China, I believe he said, on some official vice presidential business. So he said, so will you do me some songs right now? We said, sure, Mr. Vice President. What would you like to hear? And, he started naming like obscure album cuts. He wasn't mentioning hits. And we realized then at that point that he was very familiar with our music. And so we proceeded to give him a little concert right there on the stage on the lawn there of the White House that afternoon.
Wow.
And we established a friendship with him that day that lasted for about 35 years. And for many years, George Bush and Barbara Bush became very dear friends of the Oak Ridge Boys. We performed for him many times over the years. We always sang his favorite song for him. He always requested it, Amazing Grace. And before he died, he asked us, if we would sing Amazing Grace at his funeral. So we promised him, yes, Mr. President, you can count on us. We will be there. And don't you know, we were in Spokane, Washington. And after our show, we had to get on a plane, a private plane donated to us by a very dear friend, and we flew to Houston, got there just in time to go to the hotel, take a quick shower, go to the church. We had a brief visit with George W. Bush and Jeb Bush, and they both thanked us for doing this, for their father. We sang Amazing Grace at President Bush's funeral, got back on the jet, flew back to Kennewick, Washington, and did another Christmas show that night.
Wow.
We never missed a date, but the most important thing is we were able to keep our promise to President Bush, and sing Amazing Grace at his funeral. He always taught us to do the right thing, and we believe that was the right thing to do. So good Lord help us, gave us some strength to be able to pull all that off without any sleep, But it was a very emotional time, as you said, but it was a very tremendous honor at the same time.
Now, during the service, I know it was mentioned that he thought he was a good bass singer.
Yeah, well, Joe Bonzo, who talks for the Oak Ridge Boys, it was a very serious time, obviously, and a very emotional time. And Joe tried to lighten the mood up just a little bit, And this, in fact, I remember years ago doing an event with President Bush, and we were all standing up on the stage in front of the big convention and singing "God Bless America." And he came over and he stood next to us, and especially stood next to me, and leaned over and sang bass into my ear to show me that he could sing bass too.
Yeah, well, the latest album, 17th Avenue Revival, is out now, and you're still working with Dave Cobb. It was just announced 2 new albums, a Christmas album, and then we have another album coming out in 2020.
Well, you're absolutely right. The project with Dave Cobb is a very special project. It still is. But the albums did so well that the record label now wants us to do another album, and they also have agreed to do another Christmas album. And Dave Cobb has agreed to work with the Oak Ridge Boys again to do 2 more projects. And so we're excited about the prospects of doing that. If anyone knows anything about the music scene here in Nashville now, Dave Cobb is very much in demand. He really is. And we were kind of having to wait our turn, so to speak. But we go into the studio in June to do work on a new Christmas album. Then later on in the year, work on another new project with Dave Cobb. He took us down some roads musically on this last project that were very, very exciting, and some roads that we really hadn't traveled down before. And we're excited about, the direction he's going to take us again. We're looking forward to it, to say the least.
Looking forward to it. Richard Sterban with the Oak Ridge Boys joining us. They've got a show coming up May 18th, 7:30 p.m., Victoria Theater, right here in Dayton. You can get your tickets online. You can check it out on our website or the Schuster Center box office by calling 937-228-3630. Now, of course, we know all your hits. One of my favorites of yours, and I want to ask how this came about, was that version of Seven Nation Army. Is that from being a sports fan?
Well, I already talked about Dave Cobb. That was the first project we ever did about 12 years ago. It's called The Boys Are Back, and it was the first project produced by Dave Cobb for the Oak Ridge Boys. We met Dave Cobb as a result of singing on a record with Shooter Jennings, who is Waylon Jennings' son.
Oh, yeah.
He called us up, 12 years ago, and he asked us to sing on a song with him on a record. Of course, we agreed, because we knew Shooter when he was just a little boy, when we used to hang out with his father, Waylon. So we went to the studio and to work with Shooter Jennings. Dave Cobb was producing the project, and we kind of hit it off with Dave Cobb, and so we agreed. He said he would like to do a whole album on the Oak Ridge Boys. So we told him, take us in the direction that you feel you want to take us in. And one of the first songs he mentioned for that project, The Boys Are Back, was Seven Nation Army. And when he played that for us, I think we all looked at each other and we went, wow, if this is what we're going to be doing, it is definitely going to be something different. And sure enough, it was. But I remember recording the song. Dave Cobb made a special point to say, fellas, this is something totally different for you guys. But he said, we want to keep in mind that you guys are a vocal group. We don't want to change the way you sound, even though this is going to be something different. So in Dave Cobb's way, he took something that was old and established, and he blended it with something new, and the result was Seven Nation Army. And it's amazing how well it turned out. He did the same thing on this latest project of with the Oak Ridge Boys, 17th Avenue Revival. He took old time rockabilly and he married it with shouting gospel, old time revival meeting kind of gospel, and it's amazing how he's a genius at doing stuff like that. So as I said, we cannot wait to work with him again later on this year because we know it's going to be very exciting.
And we can't wait to hear it, and we can't wait to see you in May at Victoria Theater. And again, tell us what we can expect at the show.
Well, let me speak for all the Oak Ridge Boys. And, we've been to Dayton many times. We've played in the state of Ohio many times. And we have a lot of friends. We have a lot of fans. We know that. So we're looking forward to coming back. We plan to have a great time. We're going to do our best to make it a great night. And you can count on the fact that you're going to hear Elvira. You're going to hear me do Giddy Up, Papa, Mama. Yes, that will be on the show. You're going to hear Thank God for Kids, probably our most requested song. Our first hit ever, Y'all Come Back Saloon. We will probably do that. A lot of hit songs, but we're going to include some of the music from 17th Avenue Revival because, as I said, it's very meaningful music that's touching a lot of people. So we will include some of that on the show. Just in general, a great night of good country music, good family entertainment. We're excited about coming back, and we want to encourage people to come on out and spend some time with the Oak Ridge Boys.
Richard, we can't thank you enough for stopping by and talking to us here on 101.5 Hank FM. And again, we can't wait to see you at Victoria Theater in May.
Well, thank you, and thank you, for doing this for us, Gerald. When you do this, you help us, and we appreciate it so much. And one more time. Come on out. The Oak Ridge Boys are looking forward to coming your way. Come on out and spend some time with the Oak Ridge Boys. We plan to have a great time.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.